Kharkiv, or Kharkov, is the second largest city of Ukraine. Located in the northeast of the country, it is the largest city of the Slobozhanshchyna historical region. The city was founded in 1654 and was a major center of Ukrainian culture in the Russian Empire. Kharkiv was the first city in Ukraine to acknowledge Soviet power in December 1917 and became the first capital of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic until January 1935, after which the capital was relocated to Kiev. Kharkiv is the administrative center of Kharkiv Oblast and the surrounding Kharkiv district. Kharkiv is a major cultural, scientific, educational, transport and industrial center of Ukraine, with 60 scientific institutes, 30 establishments of higher education, 6 museums, 7 theaters and 80 libraries. Its industry specializes primarily in machinery and electronics. There are hundreds of industrial companies in the city. Among them are globally important giants like the Morozov Design Bureau and the Melyshov Tank Factory, Khartron, and the Attribution turbines producer. Geography. Kharkiv is located in the northeastern region of Ukraine. Historically, Kharkiv lies in the Slobodha Ukraine region, in which it is considered the main city. The city rests at the confluence of the Kharkiv, Lopan, and Ob rivers, where they flow into the Seversky Donets watershed. Climate. Kharkiv's climate is humid continental, with cold and snowy winters, and hot summers. The seasonal average temperatures are not too cold in winter, not too hot in summer, a 4.6 degrees Celsius in January, and plus 21.3 degrees Celsius in July. The average rainfall totals 513 mm per year, with the most in June and July. History. Archaeological evidence discovered in the area of present-day Kharkiv indicates that a local population has existed in that area since the 2nd millennium BC. Cultural artifacts date back to the Bronze Age, as well as those of later Scythian and Sarmatian settlers. There is also evidence that the ťar키w culture flourished in the area from the 2nd to the 6th century. Establishment. The city was founded by resettlers who were running away from the war that engulfed right-bank Ukraine in 1654. The group of people came onto the banks of Lopan and Kharkiv rivers where stood an abandoned settlement. Some sources indicate that the city may have been named after the Ukrainian name for swan Kharka. Other sources offer that the city was named after its near-legendary founder, Kharko. At first the settlement was self-governed under the jurisdiction of a voivode from ťarkiw that is located 40 kilometers to the east. The first appointed voivode from Moscow was Voyan Slifontov in 1656 who started to build a local ostrog. At that time the population of Kharkiv was just over 1,000, half of which were local Cossacks, while Slifontov brought along a Moscow garrison of another 70 servicemen. The first Kharkiv voivode was replaced in 2 years after constantly complaining that locals refused to cooperate in building the fort. Kharkiv also became the center of the local Slobodha Cossack regiment as the area surrounding the Belgorod fortress was being heavily militarized. With the resettlement of the area by Ukrainians it came to be known as Slobodha Ukraine, most of which was included under the jurisdiction of the Razryad Prikas headed by a district official from Belgorod. By 1657 the Kharkiv settlement already had a fortress with underground passageways. In 1658 Ivan Ofosimov was appointed as the new voivode, who worked on forcing locals to kiss the cross to show loyalty to the Moscow Tsar. The locals led by their Ottoman Ivan Kravoshlik refused it. However, with the election of the new Ottoman Timur Lavrinoff, the community sent a request to the Tsar to establish a local Assumption market, signed by deans of Kharkiv churches. Relationships with the neighboring ťarkiw sometimes were non-friendly and often their arguments were pacified by force. With the appointment of the third voivode Vasily Sikotin was completely finished the construction of the city fort. Kharkiv Fortress. The Kharkiv Fortress was erected around the Assumption Cathedral and its castle was located at University Hill. It was situated between today's streets, Vulitsia Kvitkio-Snovanenko, Constitution Square, Rose Luxemburg Square, Proletarian Square, and Cathedral Descent. The fortress had 10 towers: Churhuivska Tower, Mskovska Tower, Vostovska Tower, Tainetska Tower, Lopanska Corner Tower, Kharkivska Corner Tower and others. The tallest tower was Vostovska, some 16 meters tall, while the shortest one was Tainetska, which, however, had a secret well 35 meters deep. The fortress had the Lopansky gates. In 1689 the fortress was expanded and included the St. Pokrov Cathedral and monastery, which was baptized and became the center of local eparchy. Coincidentally, in the same year, in the vicinity of Kharkiv and Kolomak, Ivan Mazepa was announced the hetman of Ukraine. Next to the St. Pokrov Cathedral was located the Kharkiv Collegiate that was transferred from Belgorod to Kharkiv in 1726. Within the Russian Empire, in the course of the administrative reform carried out in 1708 by Peter the Great, the area was included into Kiev Governorate. Kharkov is specifically mentioned as one of the towns making a part of the Governorate. In 1727, Belgorod Governorate was split off, and Kharkiv moved to Belgorod Governorate. It was the center of a separate administrative unit, Kharkiv Sloboda Cossack Regiment. The regiment at some point was detached from Belgorod Governorate, then attached to it again, until in 1765, Slobodska Ukrainian Governorate was established with a seat in Kharkiv. Kharkiv University was established in 1805 in the Palace of Governorate General. Alexander Mykolaievich Mikhailowicz, brother of Adam Mikhailowicz, was a professor of law in the university. Another celebrity, Goethe, searched for instructorial staff for the school. In 1906 Ivan Franko received here a doctorate in Russian linguistics. The streets were first cobbled in the city centre in 1830. In 1844 the 90 metres tall Alexander Bell Tower was built next to the First Assumption Cathedral, which on November 16, 1924 was transformed into a radio tower. A system of running water was established in 1870. The cathedral descent at one time carried the name of another local trader vessel Ivanovich Pashchenko Tyapkin as Pashchenko descent. Pashchenko even leased a space to the city council and was the owner of the City Old Passage, the city's biggest trade center. After his death in 1894, Pashchenko donated all his possessions to the city. In 1912 the first sewer system was built. Gas lighting was installed in 1890 and electric lighting in 1898. In 1869 the first railway station was constructed, and the first tram lines in 1906. From 1800 to 1917 the population increased by 30-fold. Kharkiv became a major industrial center and with it a center of Ukrainian culture. In 1812 the first Ukrainian newspaper was published there. One of the first pravdas in eastern Ukraine was also established in Kharkiv. A powerful nationally aware political movement was also established there, and the concept of an independent Ukraine was first declared there by the lawyer Mykola Makhnovsky in 1900. Soviet period. When the Russian Civil War broke out, on February 12, 1918, Kharkov became the capital of the Donetsk Kryvyi Rog Soviet Republic. The republic was disbanded at the Second All-Ukrainian Congress of Soviets on March 20, 1918, when the independence of the Soviet Ukraine was announced. It failed to achieve recognition either internationally or by the Russian SFSR, and in accordance with the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk was abolished. Prior to the formation of the Soviet Union, Bolsheviks established Kharkiv as the capital of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic in opposition to the Ukrainian People's Republic with its capital of Kiev. According to linguist George Shavilov, in the early 1920s the share of secondary schools teaching in the Ukrainian language was lower than the share of the Kharkiv Oblast's ethnic Ukrainian population. Even though the Soviet Union had ordered that all schools in the Ukrainian SSR should be Ukrainian-speaking. As the country's capital, it underwent intense expansion with the construction of buildings to house the newly established Ukrainian Soviet government and administration. ʻxarkiw was the second tallest building in Europe and the tallest in the Soviet Union at the time, with a height of 63 meters. In the 1920s, a 150 meters wooden radio tower was built on top of the building. During the interwar period the city saw the spread of architectural constructivism. One of the best representatives of it was the already mentioned ʻxarkiw, the building of the Red Army, the Ukrainian Polytechnic Institute of Distance Learning, the City Council building, with its massive asymmetric tower, the central department store that was opened on the 15th anniversary of the October Revolution. The same year, on November 7, 1932, the building of Nobleman Assembly was transformed into the building of All Ukrainian Central Executive Committee. In 1928, the SVU process was initiated and court sessions were staged in the Kharkiv Opera Building. Hundreds of Ukrainian intellectuals were arrested and deported. In the early 1930s, the Holodomor famine drove many people off the land into the cities, and to Kharkiv in particular, in search of food. Many people died and were secretly buried in mass graves in the cemeteries surrounding the city. In 1934, hundreds of Ukrainian writers, intellectuals and cultural workers were arrested and executed in the attempt to eradicate all vestiges of Ukrainian nationalism in art. The purges continued into 1938. Blind Ukrainian street musicians were also gathered in Kharkiv and murdered by the NKVD. In January 1935, the capital of the Ukrainian SSR was moved from Kharkiv to Kiev. During April and May 1940, about 3,900 Polish prisoners of Starobylsk camp were executed in the Kharkiv NKVD building, later secretly buried on the grounds of an NKVD pensionat in ʻxarkiw forest on the outskirts of Kharkiv. The site also contains the numerous bodies of Ukrainian cultural workers who were arrested and shot in the 1937–38 Stalinist purges. German occupation. During World War II, Kharkiv was the site of several military engagements. The city was captured and recaptured by Nazi Germany on October 24, 1941. There was a disastrous Red Army offensive that failed to capture the city in May 1942. The city was successfully retaken by the Soviets on February 16, 1943, captured for a second time by the Germans on March 15, 1943, and then finally liberated on August 23, 1943. 70% of the city was destroyed and tens of thousands of the inhabitants were killed. Kharkiv, the third largest city in the Soviet Union, was the most populous city in the Soviet Union captured by the Germans, since in the years preceding World War II, Kiev was by population the smaller of the two. The significant Jewish population of Kharkiv suffered greatly during the war. Between December 1941 and January 1942, an estimated 30,000 people were killed and buried in a mass grave by the Germans in a ravine outside of town named Drobetskaya. During World War II, 4 battles took place for control of the city: First Battle of Kharkov, Second Battle of Kharkov, Third Battle of Kharkov, Fourth Battle of Kharkov. Before the occupation, Kharkiv's tank industries were evacuated to the Urals with all their equipment, and became the heart of Red Army's tank programs. These enterprises returned to Kharkiv after the war, and continued to produce tanks. Post-war, in the post-war period, many of the destroyed homes and factories were rebuilt. From the constructivism, the city was planned to be rebuilt in the style of Stalinist classicism. Gas lines were installed for heating in government and later private homes. An airport was built in 1954. Following the war, Kharkiv was the third largest scientific industrial center in the former USSR. In independent Ukraine, in 2007, the Vietnamese minority in Kharkiv built the largest Buddhist temple in Europe on a 1-hectare plot with a monument to Ho Chi Minh. In 2014, Kharkiv experienced conflict between pro-Ukrainian and pro-Russian protesters. In March 2014, a Russian tourist from Moscow scaled an administrative building and replaced the Ukrainian flag with a Russian one. By its territorial expansion on September 6, 2012, the city increased its area from about 310 to 350 square kilometers. There is an underground rapid transit system with about 38.1 km of track and 29 stations. A well-known landmark of Kharkiv is the Freedom Square, which is the 6th largest city square in Europe, and the 12th largest square in the world. Kharkiv was a host city for the UEFA Euro 2012, and hosted 3 group matches in Metalist Stadium. 2014 pro-Russian unrest in Kharkiv. The 2014 pro-Russian unrest in Ukraine affected Kharkiv, but to a lesser extent than in neighboring Donbas, where tensions would lead to the war in Donbas. On March 2, 2014, A Russian tourist from Moscow replaced the Ukrainian flag with a Russian flag on the Kharkiv Regional State Administration building. 5 days later, pro-Russian protesters occupied the building and unilaterally declared independence from Ukraine as the Kharkov People's Republic. The next day, the building was retaken by Ukrainian special forces. On April 13, some pro-Russian protesters again made it inside the Kharkiv Regional State Administration building. Later on April 13 the building returned permanently to full Ukrainian control. Violent clashes resulted in the severe beating of at least 50 pro-Ukrainian protesters in attacks by pro-Russian protesters. Kharkiv returned to relative calm by April 30. Relatively peaceful demonstrations continued to be held, with pro-Russian rallies gradually diminishing and pro-Ukrainian unity demonstrations growing in numbers. On September 28, activists dismantled Ukraine's largest monument to Lenin at a pro-Ukrainian rally in the central square. Government and administrative divisions. While Kharkiv is the administrative center of the Kharkiv Oblast, the city affairs are managed by the Kharkiv municipality. Kharkiv is a city of oblast subordinates. The territory of Kharkiv is divided into 9 administrative rayons: Leninsky, Dzержinski, Kievsky, Moskovsky, Franzensky, Ordzhonikidtsevsky, Kimintern-Vsky, Chervonotsavodsky, Zvtnevi. Demographics. According to the 1989 Soviet Union census, the population of the city was 1,593,970. In 1991, the population decreased to 1,510,200, including 1,494,200 permanent city residents. Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine after the capital, Kiev. The nationality structure of Kharkiv as of the 1989 census is: Ukrainians 50.38%, Russians 43.63%, Jews 3%, Belarusians 0.75%, and all others 2.24%. According to the Soviet census of 1959 there were Ukrainians, Russians, Jews and other nationalities. Notes: 1660 Euro approximated estimation, 1788 Euro without the account of children, 1920 Euro times of the Russian Civil War, 1941 Euro estimation on May 1, right before the World War II, 1941 Euro next estimation in September varies between 1,400,000 and 1,450,000, 1941 Euro another estimation in December during the occupation without the account of children, 1943 Euro August 23, liberation of the city. Estimation varied 170,000 and 220,000, 1976 Euro estimation on June 1, 1982 Euro estimation in March. Economy. During the Soviet era Kharkiv was the capital of industrial production in Ukraine and the third largest center of industry and commerce in the USSR. After the collapse of the Soviet Union the largely defense systems-oriented industrial production of the city decreased significantly. In the early 2000s the industry started to recover and adapt to market economy needs. Now there are more than 380 industrial enterprises concentrated in the city, which have a total number of 150,000 employees. The enterprises form machine building, electrotechnologic, instrument making, and energy conglomerates. State-owned industrial giants, such as Attribution and Elektrotechnology occupy 17% of the heavy power equipment construction market worldwide. Multi-purpose aircraft are produced by the Antonov Aircraft Manufacturing Plant. The Melishov factory produces not only armored fighting vehicles, but also harvesters. Khartron is the leading designer of space and commercial control systems in Ukraine and the former CIS. Kharkiv is also the headquarters of one of the largest Ukrainian banks, ʻxarৰীষ্টwo, which has been part of the BNP Paribas Group since December 2005. Kharkiv markets. Berebazovo market is the largest markets in Ukraine and one of the largest markets in Europe. Slobozhanshchyna. Komny. Resky. Science and education. Kharkiv is one of the most prolific centers of higher education and research of Eastern Europe. The city has 13 national universities and numerous professional, technical and private higher education institutions, offering its students a wide range of disciplines. Kharkiv National University, National Technical University ʻxarkiw, Kharkiv National University of Radio Electronics, Kharkiv National Aerospace University ＫHAI are the leading universities in Ukraine. A total number of 150,000 students attend the universities and other institutions of higher education in Kharkiv. About 9,000 foreign students from 96 countries study in the city. More than 17,000 faculty and research staff are employed in the institutions of higher education in Kharkiv. The city has a high concentration of research institutions, which are independent or loosely connected with the universities. Among them are 3 national science centers, ＫHARKNV Institute of Physics and Technology, Institute of Metrology, Institute for Experimental and Clinical Veterinary Medicine and 20 national research institutions of the National Academy of Science of Ukraine, such as the Beverkin Institute for Low-Temperature Physics and Engineering, Institute for Problems of Cryobiology and Cryomedicine, State Scientific Institution ʻxarkiw Institute for Single Crystal Seguro, Yuzikov Institute of Radiophysics and Electronics, Institute of Radio Astronomy, and others. A total number of 26,000 scientists are working in research and development. A number of world-renowned scientific schools appeared in Kharkiv, such as the Theoretical Physics School and the Mathematical School. In addition to the libraries affiliated with the various universities and research institutions, the Kharkiv State Scientific V. Korolenko Library is a major research library. Kharkiv has 212 schools, including 10 lyceums and 20 gymnasiums. Culture. Kharkiv is one of the main cultural centers in Ukraine. It is home of 20 museums, over 10 theaters and a number of picture galleries. Large music and cinema festivals are hosted in Kharkiv almost every year. Literature. In the 1930s, Kharkiv was referred to as a literary Klondike. It was the center for the work of literary luminaries such as Les Kerbers, Mykola Kulish, Mykola Khvalovi, Mykola Zirov, Valerian Podmoelny, Pavlo Filipovich, Marko Vorony, Alexis Slisarenko. Over 100 of these writers were repressed during the Stalinist purges of the 1930s. This tragic event in Ukrainian history is called the Executed Renaissance. Today a literary museum located on Fon Street marks their work and achievements. Today, Kharkiv is often referred to as the capital city of Ukrainian science fiction and fantasy. It is the home to a number of popular writers, such as H.L. Oldie, Alexander Zorich, Andrei Dashkov, Yuri Nikitin and Andrei Valentinov. Most of them write in Russian and are popular in both Russia and Ukraine. Annual science fiction convention Starbridge is held in Kharkiv since 1999. Music. Kharkiv sponsors the prestigious Not Kotkvik International Music Competition of performers of Ukrainian folk instruments which takes place every 3 years. Since 1997 4 tri-annual competitions have taken place. The 2010 competition was cancelled by the Ukrainian Ministry of Culture 2 days before its opening. The Kharkiv Conservatory is in the city. Landmarks. Of the many attractions of the Kharkiv city are the Dertskprom Building, Memorial Complex, Freedom Square, Taras Shevchenko Monument, Mirror Stream, Dormition Cathedral, Historical Museum, Choral Synagogue, Annunciation Cathedral, Tia Shevchenko Gardens, Zoo, Children's Narrow Gauge Railroad, World War I Tank MKV and many more. After the 2014 Russian annexation of Crimea, the monument to Petro Konashvik Sahaydachny in Sevastopol was removed and handed over to Kharkiv. Sports. Kharkiv is Ukraine's second-largest city, and as in the whole country sports are taken seriously. The most popular sport is football. The city has several football clubs playing in the Ukrainian national competitions. The most successful is Metalist that also participated in international competitions on numerous occasions. Metalist Kharkiv, which plays at the Metalist Stadium, FC Kharkiv, which plays at the Dynamo Stadium, FC Helios, which plays at the Helios Arena, FC Arsenal Kharkiv, which plays at the Arsenal Spartak Stadium, There is also a female football club WFC Zyklobud Kharkiv, which represented Ukraine in the European competitions and constantly is the main contender for the national title. Metalist Stadium hosted 3 group matches at UEFA Euro 2012. Kharkiv also has an ice hockey club, ̆xarkiw, which play in the Professional Hockey League. There is a men volleyball team Lokomotiv Kharkiv which performs in Ukraine and in the European competitions. RC Olymp is the city's rugby union club. They provide many players for the national team. Igor Rybak, an Olympic champion lightweight weightlifter, was from Kharkiv. International relations. Twin towns are sister cities, Kharkiv is twinned with. Notable people, Nobel and Fields Prize winners, Vladimir Drinfeld, Simon Ksetz, Lev Landor are head of the Department of Theoretical Physics at the Kharkiv Institute of Physics and Technology, a head of the Department of Experimental Physics and a lecturer at the Department of Theoretical Physics at the Kharkiv State University, a head of the Department of Theoretical Physics at the Kharkiv Polytechnic Institute 1932-37, Nobel Prize for Physics 1962, Ilya Mechnikov, Transport. The city of Kharkiv is one of the largest transportation centers in Ukraine, which is connected to numerous cities of the world by air, rail and road traffic. The city has many transportation methods, including public transport, taxis, railways, and air traffic. There are about 250,000 cars in the city. Local transport, being an important transportation center of Ukraine, Kharkiv itself contains many different transportation methods. Kharkiv's metro is the city's rapid transit system, operating since 1975, it includes 3 different lines with 29 stations in total. The Kharkiv buses carry about 12 million passengers annually, trolley buses, tramways, and marshrutkas. Railways. The first railway connection of Kharkiv was opened in 1869. The first train to arrive in Kharkiv came from the north on May 22, 1869, and on June 6, 1869, traffic was opened on the Kursk-Kharkiv line. Kharkiv's passenger railway station was reconstructed and expanded in 1901, to be later destroyed in the Second World War. A new railway station was built in 1952. Kharkiv is connected with all main cities in Ukraine and abroad by regular railway trains. Regional trains known as älrykkas connect Kharkiv with nearby towns and villages. Air travel. Kharkiv is served by an international airport which used to have about 200 flights a day, almost all of them being passenger flights. The Kharkiv International Airport has been granted international status. The airport is not large and is situated within the city boundaries, south from the city center. Flights to Kiev and Moscow are scheduled daily. There are regular flights to Vienna and Istanbul, and several other destinations. Charter flights are also available. The former largest carrier of the Kharkiv airport Almost Kharkiv is not serving any regular destinations as of 2007. The Kharkiv North Airport is a factory airfield and was a major production facility for Antonov Aircraft Company. Gallery. Footnotes and references. External links. Satinet UA official website of Kharkiv City Information Center /Ukrainian, Miesto Kharkiv official website of Kharkiv City Council /Ukrainian, Your Beloved Kharkiv Kharkiv City Portal, Ukrainian, Kharkiv Tsar Jazz Fest official website of International Kharkiv Jazz Festival Kharkiv ZA Jazz Fest. Old Kharkiv Gallery photos and postcards, €360 VR panoramas of Kharkiv Square, Kharkiv churches, monuments and other sites, Kharkiv under Nazi occupation, Kharkiv on Google Maps.